One of the key issues in the campaign that we've talked about has come up, and it has caused, indirectly at least, a lot of activity on the internet and in the debates, and that is the issue of going to war. And this to me is so sad and tragic. Of course, I can't believe anybody should be or would brag about being pro-war. But we were instructed precisely on how we go to war. It was fully debated in the Constitutional Convention, and it said that if our country is attacked, or if there's an imminent attack, our president has the right and responsibility to protect this country. And then as soon as possible, he gets the permission from the Congress by declaring war and then continuing the process. But the president has always had, from the very beginning, the authority to defend ourselves in a precise time. So on 9/11, if our president had decided to shoot down an airplane or whatever, he really would have had the authority to do that, and nobody could have questioned it in a constitutional fashion. And this is a process, though, that we have drifted so far from, because the declaration of war, the need for that actually has never happened in all of our history. Probably the closest it came to was maybe during the missile crisis in Cuba. And I remember that well because I was in the middle of my medical training and I was drafted. I ended up being in the Air Force for 5 years. But in reality, our presidents have never had to send out bombers or planes or anything. During the Cold War, certainly the president, if he saw missiles coming in or planes coming in, he wouldn't have had to wait for the Congress to declare war. I mean, that is an accepted legal fact. But the fact that we went through the Cold War, never had to do that, it's a different story when we talk about the wars that we have been involved that have been undeclared. That's where I have a big complaint. And I remember the World War II and everything since then, and we haven't declared war since World War II. World War II was a shorter period of time than the Iraqi war that's going on right now. It was declared. There was no doubt that we had been attacked. Everybody got together and everybody fought, and the war ended in a relatively short period of time. But Korea was undeclared. The tragedy of Korea, not only was it undeclared, the authority came from the United Nations. So we gave up our sovereignty very early under the United Nations, and I don't think we've done well protecting our sovereignty since we've had the United Nations. That's why I think we ought to get out of the United Nations. Yeah! Was undeclared and it is still lingering, and it's detrimental to us. It has drained us. We have spent well over $1 trillion just maintaining troops in South Korea. And you say, well, hasn't that been absolutely necessary to keep North Koreans from invading South Korea? Well, a long time ago, the South Koreans became very, very wealthy and very, very capable. Matter of fact, there's been a strong move in South Korea, North Korea, to bring the two halves of Korea together. But our policy has tended to stand in its way. Just recently, they opened a railroad line for the first time between North and South Korea. And our policy generally has been to inhibit this and prevent them from getting together and sort of keep the Cold War atmosphere going. Some people actually believe there's some financial benefits for the military and industrial complex to have a little bit of agitation going on out there. Vietnam, another tragedy in that the war was undeclared, and it wasn't under the United Nations, but it wasn't precisely constitutional. We lost 60,000 people over there, and the Vietnamese lost over 1 million. And we literally, and nobody can argue we won anything, we left, and we think, well, what was it worth? You know, and what has happened since then? The first thing that happened was there was no domino theory. And the reason why we were over there was to prevent the domino theory that that whole region would be engulfed by the Soviets and all become communists. So those who advised the war were wrong in what happened after we left. And there was chaos. There was no doubt about it. There was chaos. There had been chaos there for a long time. And yet, in time, conditions have changed. We trade with Vietnam, we talk to them, we invest in Vietnam. We're doing what the founders advised. They said, no entangling alliances, no militarism, don't get involved in their affairs, but trade with them and talk with them. It's not isolationism. Those who believe this, we get accused, oh, you're an isolationist, you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to do anything. No, it isn't that. It isn't isolating ourselves from the world. The founders were correct that we should trade with countries like this. We're doing this, and we do quite well with Vietnam. In contrast, guns don't work, trade works much better. And that, of course, is the practical reasons why we should be much, much more cautious about going to war anytime at all.